Hey guys, everyone, welcome back. This is our new episode of Jetil Podcast, and we're back here. Me, your favorite host, Madi, our second host,
the Grand Kung Fu Master,
Aidos,
baby. What's going on?
Aidos, toxic mentor.
Yes. Who said you are the favorite one? Man? Comment below, bro.
Yeah.
Let them know.
Yeah, great. How are you, bro?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks.
It's always to be back.
Always great to have you here.
Yeah. Busy as always.
Yeah. And our second guest for today, our guest speaker, August Garnsey. August, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Madi. Thanks a lot, man, for inviting me here. I really appreciated this opportunity. But I'm doing good, feeling good, man. It's fall, nice weather outside.
Yeah.
It's good to meet you, August, man.
It's always great to see people of. Let me just introduce you a bit. I mean, August has been working. He has great experience working and teaching, right? English classes, specifically working with children and also adults, right? So I think today mainly we're going to try to touch upon the topic of teaching, different methods, maybe differences of approaches in United States and here in Kazakhstan. That would be something new for us, I guess. Yeah, because we already had some teachers here, like Emma. She's been teacher of history, though. And we talked a lot about the comparisons between the history in the United States and Kazakhstan, what's different, and so on and so forth. And today we would like to talk a little bit about languages, like in approach towards English specifically.
August, how long have you been in Kazakhstan?
Well, I'm relatively new to Almaty. Just moved here literally just a few months ago. I was in Astana for the last couple of years.
Okay.
While I was doing my previous project work, I did, and then before that, I was in Kokshetau. So I've been. So this is my third place here in Kazakhstan. Wow. Yeah.
Nice. How do you like it here, bro?
Yeah, well, I mean,
still adapting, right?
I keep coming. Yeah, I'm constantly. It's the learning curve. You'd be surprised. It kind of keeps kind of extending when you feel like you kind of are getting ahead of it. It keeps kind of growing on you.
That's right.
But constant, changes and trying to learn and adapt to things. But I keep coming back. So definitely, there's some great things here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you have already started your teaching sessions at one of our universities here in Kazakhstan.
Correct.
Which I'm aware is KIMEP. Right?
Correct. Yeah, that's where I just got started now after I finished my previous work as an English language fellow with the U.S. Department of State. So I finished my project work in Astana, and now I'm at KIMEP University.
Nice.
What do you teach exactly there? Like, what's the...
Well, I mean, based on my background, because my specialty is obviously for teacher training, but I'm kind of blending it. So I'm going to be working with the pre-service like English teachers in the bachelor's program and the master's students in the English teachers program, as well as other types of courses as well.
Yeah.
So right now, actually, I'm teaching a couple sections of research methods, kind of a foundational research method course for the bachelor's students, in addition to working with the internship program for the bachelor's students.
Amazing. That sounds so academic, like, bro, how did you learn English? Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, it's the music. It's the music. Yeah, I used to, because I don't think you can learn. You couldn't learn a good English in our schools, but you could, but you couldn't fix your accent, because the whole most of post-Soviet Union countries they have this accent. So
pronunciation problems, right?
Yeah. It's music. Watching a lot of music videos and movies and listening to a lot of rap music. In my case, so but you'll try to imitate them. You'll try to just copy the words without even understanding what they're saying. And then later on, when I started understanding some English, and it's like, oh, okay, so he was saying this, he was saying that.
Yeah.
And then you get to understand. Oh, okay, so that since you've been listening to a lot of music, and then I could just use that, imitate, that part of the song, and then use it put it in the conversation, and then I sound better. So that's how it is. You keep practicing, you keep using it, and then you end up with a good English.
Just for a record, Aidos speaks how many languages does he speak, bro?
Well, let's say 5, man.
He speaks
5,
5
6,
languages.
yeah.
He's pretty fluent in Chinese,
Oh, right,
English,
right.
Turkish,
Yeah.
from where.
Yeah.
And I also know that you have pretty good level of those languages, right? I mean, you
Yes.
do business. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not
exactly.
like just a couple of phrases or stuff. No, you know them pretty well.
The worst one that I speak is Russian,
Whoa,
to be honest. Yeah.
that's
Because
cool.
I learned I started speaking Russian, I think, when I was 13, 14 or 15, something
Yeah.
like that.
In
somewhere
other
around there.
languages, you were like obtaining them
Yeah, because
naturally,
it's
right?
Kazakh. I've been speaking Kazakh, but the Chinese, because I've been traveling a lot to China, and then I've been watching a lot of Chinese stuff since I was a kid. Yeah, so it kind of helped. And Turkish, I learned staying in a dorm with 3 Turkish guys, just watching TV series. I think I started speaking in Turkish in like 3 months,
Whoa.
without speaking, just by listening, bro.
Wow.
And then
cool.
I did the same thing that I did in the music.
Yeah.
So by just watching, listening,
By
I was like, and I
listening.
started copying, and then after 3 months, we were just chilling on a balcony. Those guys smoking, cigarettes, and then I just started speaking in Turkish. They were like, "Wow," and they didn't notice at first. Like
Yeah.
after 5 minutes, it was like, "Wait, hold on, you speaking Turkish?" So that's how.
That's
I
what
ended up.
could you
It's kinda
correct me
weird.
if I'm wrong? The idea of doing a lot of input while learning something, especially immersing yourself into the language. First of all, at least you hear a lot of information. You try to get this listening a lot, and then after you feel how you filled up inside, and then you start speaking naturally. That's basically how children start speaking, right?
I think you've been. I've seen your content. You've been analyzing this thing, or
Yeah.
you've been talking about this.
Yeah, yeah.
How do you learn language so fast? Because I never analyzed my things. But one thing I usually do is, for example, I travel to Europe. After a few days, I start speaking. Like we went to Italy. After a couple of days, I start speaking in basic Italian.
Yeah.
Because in my case, I try to understand the root of the language. Where is it coming from? Is it coming from Latin or Arabic or
Roman.
or Roman or Greek? Greco. Where is it coming from? And then I see the ends of how they end the words, like in Russian.
So you said the logic, right? It's
yeah,
trying to
I
track
just
the logic.
use that and try to connect, and then I guess I'll be just using those words. I try this word, okay, it doesn't work. This one, oh, it works. Okay, so now I know what they like. How do they call this or call that? So that's how usually I operate.
What do you think about it, August? Like, could you, as an English teacher, could you elaborate this from the perspective of academia?
Sure. Well, I mean, I've definitely visited a lot of schools and collaborated with a lot of universities across Kazakhstan. My previous project work in Astana, I was partnered with the Methodology Center for the Akimat of Astana, and I probably visited like maybe 60 to 70 different schools in Astana.
Wow.
And speaking about music, there's a lot of actually local English teachers here that claim that Eminem actually was an inspiring thing for him to learn English, kind of
my
like
case.
that artist, like kind of. So definitely, music, when I visit different schools and I talk to English teachers, music is definitely very influential and kind of that motivating factor where like, maybe you're starting to learn, but you hear this music before always, and you want to learn what they're saying, what this is about. The beats are cool, it sounds good, but kind of taking a little bit further.
Just a simple curiosity, right?
Yeah. And and everybody has a different timeline to learning. I feel like in Kazakhstan, when I do visit schools, I would interact with students at all these different schools from a wide range, from like 3rd grade to 11th grade, many university students, other adults and professionals, and their timetable for kind of language acquisition, it varies from person to person. Some do pick it up fast, and others do pick it up, gradually. I mean, it's a progress. It should definitely always be a work in progress. Like you said, with lots of kind of input stimulus. I mean, definitely being kind of more immersed in any kind of a language environment, as much practice as possible. Listening to it is important. But definitely the timeline can vary. I think with what I've seen with a lot of teachers and students in Kazakhstan at the schools that I visit, Yeah, but it's an interesting thing. My perspective I've seen in visiting so many different schools and working with so many, but the thing always about, how do I sound type of thing, people always ask me that kind of question. Like, do I sound like that native type of, native speaker? Always ask about that.
What do you think about it? Like, is it something that we got to fix, or is it something natural?
I mean, actually, I'm a strong believer in, world Englishes. I mean, there's such a variety of it. I mean, I've been trying to, here in Kazakhstan, there's their own variety of English, and I've been trying to learn new English words here that I didn't know about actually, or I didn't use the same way, So I mean, there's some aspects of English I need to kind of relearn. And hey, that's the great thing about English is everybody kind of, it adapts, it evolves to the community, the people, and people use it, man. I mean, it has a purpose to communicate across kind of borders and barriers. Yeah. But of course, there's always going to be like their own kinds of words that they put into it. Of course, in the U.S., there's always, Spanglish, they kind of mixture of like that, and
Chinglish, right?
And here definitely there's some like for some Russian English, some specific English words, that are used here but not used the same way like in the U.S. Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask the native English speakers is, while being here, did you notice the fact, or how do you estimate it, if Kazakh language speakers, they have their own accent in comparison with Russian speakers? Because do you think it's different, or we still have this Russian accent kind of in English, or you think it's slightly different?
Well, actually, I mean, kind of my first time that I got kind of, introduced or more kind of, I learned a lot more about Kazakhstan starting from about 2018 or so. So it's been about 5 years ago when I started working with like English teachers here in Kazakhstan. And, initially I saw, if you're thinking about like mimicking accents or how people sound, I mean, I heard a lot of, locals here in Kazakhstan that were, excellent English speakers that had a little more kind of some British kind of accent to it. But over the past 5 years, I've heard a little bit more kind of neutrality in some of the ways that English is being spoken, maybe other influences from the U.S. or other countries or places. So a little less kind of the British sounding type of English, which is obviously, growing up, this is what people were learning. They weren't learning like American English. But I've noticed more neutrality over the last 5 years with the accents, more people sounding kind of a little bit more neutral. I kind of feel that Americans, our English is kind of quite neutral compared to other kinds of world Englishes. So I'm hearing more neutrality with the accents over the past 5 years.
Yeah, that's true. What about you?
Yeah, I also think it's slightly different.
You've been struggling with accent. I mean, last time you told me.
Yeah, when I first went to China, I used to say thank you, and I used to say this is like this. Yeah, and then this other like. Friends from other countries, they like correct me, like, yo, that's not how you say. You don't say thank you, you have to say thank you. And then I had to relearn the whole the part. It was like difficult for me. Yeah. And then later on, and then I was okay, I understood. And then I used to say instead of muscle, I used to say muscle, like this type of things. I had this like little mistakes, and then you get used to it later on. Like keep hearing. I have a lot of American friends, and then staying with them, being neighbors with them, playing basketball, going to gym, clubbing, and all that stuff. So I keep hearing how they talk, and then you kind of you
just adapt yourself.
Yeah, you kind of pick it up. Yeah, and then they watch shows, right? You sit with right next to them and watch the same show, and then some of the parts of the like show they love, but I don't get it. So I have to rewatch that later on myself alone, and then like Google the thing, like why would they love? Oh, okay. So I had to do my little homework, there. But
that's good. I mean, again, right? The thing with curiosity, like you just had it, and then you were searching.
Me and you, we could just leave it at that. We could just leave it at just speak the right language and not care about the accent, right? But we're not
being
like
a perfectionist.
Exactly. We believe in that if you want to speak a language, at least try. Put some effort. Try to sound. Like you said, neutral as neutral as possible. Yeah. We cannot sound like too American. We cannot. We don't know how to sound too British. So
There's no such thing as perfect English. It doesn't exist anymore.
But to make it sound good,
Yeah.
You sound
Be
good.
intelligible at least.
Exactly.
The key goal.
That's true.
So that's what I believe in. So when I speak Chinese, I'm like I turn into a Chinese person. When I speak Turkish, I turn into a Turkish person. I used to I heard this saying. They say like that the more language you speak, it's like you have more personality. Like how many languages, that many personalities you have. Now I kind of feel it.
That's true.
Because I catch myself. I was like, why would I be saying like things and acting certain way? My facial expression is different. So probably when we leave this podcast and we go outside, we speak in Russian or Kazakh. Like it's a different, like totally
turn out to
different
be
person.
Different person.
Yeah,
that's true. August, tell us about this thing. I mean, you already touched upon the topic of the timing, like the period of learning language and stuff. You said that it may take a lot of time, depending on the person, depending on the individual, how much time he requires, and so on. So I have a question on, like, recently, as this boom of info business came out to our market, like some people started claiming that you can obtain a level of advanced just in 3 months or just in 2 months. Like, in my personal opinion, that's like total, crap, to be honest. As an academia, like, what do you think about this? Like, do we just need time to go through this, or is it really possible to obtain such level of English just in a short period?
Well, I mean, from my opinion too, I mean, is also I don't believe kind of in the learn language fast type of things. I actually feel that if you do try to learn it fast, there's going to be a lot of gaps. Definitely there's going to be gaps. And to me, I mean, with the time frame, as I mentioned before, it's something that others do have their own approach, and it takes a certain amount of time. There's been so many studies as to how many hours of English language instruction, how many hours of lessons do you need to become fluent? And when you try to crunch all the numbers, you look like, wow, that looks like a lifetime almost. But it's not true. I mean, you can learn languages, functional, intelligible language that's practical and useful for certain purposes. So I feel that the timeline aligns with the goals and the aims of why you're wanting to learn it. And I feel that, with secondary school students, when I talk to them, the ones that really have specific things, they're in cyber sport, and they're gamers and they want to learn English for that, and they're trying to pick up stuff quickly. There's students that are preparing maybe for studying abroad or for other types of tests like that, and maybe their timeline is maybe 2 years, or 3 years, and so that's different, and so that way that's going to affect the timeline is the purpose. What's your aim?
The aim, right? I mean, exactly. So they just don't rush because they don't see it like
that's so
necessary.
Very intelligent academic way of, response was very professional. Like you'll just chop it off for us. What I tell people when they ask how do you learn Chinese is I tell them just go there alone. Eventually you get hungry. And then,
that's pretty radical approach, right?
And then, you'll be surprised how quick you'll start speaking and start using chopsticks.
That's true.
Because you can't find no forks and spoons, and so that's how I ironically. I mean, of course I'm joking, but it helps. It helps because you're a foreign student abroad. Like same as in Japan, probably. If you end up there alone, no friends, especially during holidays, everybody went home and you're alone and you don't speak the local language. And then your survival instinct will...
survival mode.
Yeah. You're like, what? Yo, we need to eat. Get up, say something, do something. I mean, that's also one of the aims.
I had to learn numbers. I was really struggling with numbers in Japan because the way they count their numbers, like...
Oh man, I hate it. In Chinese,
I think it's probably the same. So I had to learn it because every time I go to convenience store, so they give me the.
Is it like
payback?
If they want to say 1,000, it's like 10 hundreds?
Yes.
Something
Yes,
it's the same shit.
So I had to learn all this, and then because I was in the market, right? I had to do the stuff there. So I learned it eventually, and now I'm super fluent. Like I understand it clearly. It was good though, because I had a necessity to learn it, right? And then some other people. But here, when I started learning Japanese, I was really struggling with numbers because I just couldn't use it.
Yeah.
Right? I just couldn't use it. But there, like a week, I was super fluent with numbers.
I heard French is some like the French numbers or something like that.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of
Pretty
weird.
complicated. Yeah.
Just to say 80.
No logic
like you
there.
say, yeah. Like you say like 240s or something like that. Oh man.
Yeah.
And kind of to go off of talking about Japan and Japanese, before coming to Kazakhstan, I focus a lot on business English, and actually I was partnered with the Japan America Society of Chicago, and there's a few hundred corporate partners of the association, and so I provided a lot of kind of professional language training solutions for those expats that were here. And when I talked about timelines, so before I was kind of emphasizing more the student type of timelines, but professionals, I mean, can be completely different timelines for learning certain specific functional type of English. So I worked with a lot of expat that were here, executive division managers for Japanese corporations like major ones, and maybe it's presentations to the board, new product presentations, pitches, for other types of purpose. And then the timeline can definitely kind of shrink quite a bit, for certain specific events or dates like that. Sure. So again, everybody has a different timeline to language learning.
Do you still you still teach the business English here? Still in KIMEP? I mean, like outside of the university? Do you take other?
I've done a few kind of like.
I mean, can we apply for that? Like, can I apply?
Well, no, I don't actually do kind of like those kind of partnership courses now. Before I did like a kind of like a partner thing when I was with the as an English language fellow with the State Department program. There was a bit like a English for career development, and I kind of did that kind of massive open online course, like facilitating it for people for improving like resume and interviewing skills if they kind of want to target maybe applying to some U.S. companies like that. So, but not really now in my current capacity, but could be something we could talk about after.
Okay,
sure. Yeah, how different is business English and general English? Because, well, I used to face a lot of myth and like bias towards this. Like some people claim to have, I mean, even if you don't have a proper level of English, they say that it doesn't matter, you can start from a very beginning, like business English. And then in my opinion, you have to have a certain level of English first before you're like turning
I agree.
to business English. Like, do you also?
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, there has to be
basis. Some basics.
Yeah, because this is all about kind of for a lot of the professional English, because I've worked with some other kind of U.S. government programs here in Kazakhstan that are emphasizing whether it's English for certain types of things, journalism, aviation English, whatever. Because there's STEM. I mean, there's a lot of different types of some U.S. government programs for specific English, and there has to be a certain kind of a certain level of kind of at least some kind of fluency or proficiency to get started with that.
Wow.
Man.
Nice, that's something I would want to learn.
Yeah. How do you think your business English is? Because you are in business. I mean, you're all into.
I'm in business, but I'm not in business English. I speak.
Let's be honest here. Right?
I speak. Well, most of my partners are Chinese, so I speak Chinese. Most of my friends are foreigners, so it's like just casual,
pretty casual,
just casual English. Like it's good enough for me to get in and out of trouble in overseas. So it's like more than enough for me to travel to the US or anywhere basically. The English is good enough.
Yeah.
But I would still want to learn.
Tell me more about.
I've seen the differences, bro.
Yeah. Bro, tell me more about Chinese. I mean, I think you don't really talk about these things here on Pat Podcast much. Like your Chinese level is way higher than your English level, or not.
I wouldn't say so, bro. Probably around, probably somewhere same.
Somewhere.
So you see, in Chinese, in English, I can write.
Because those are like super different languages.
Yeah.
I mean,
Chinese, I can read.
Yeah.
I can read probably up to 60% or even 50. Well, because it's very hard to read the whole thing.
That's true.
Even if you want to read a newspaper or a book, like you better have your translator. Well, now I have my phone, so I can just scan it and see what is this the word. So and writing, I can't write by hand. Like there's no handwriting. I can type.
Yeah.
Because it's very confusing. The moment I start
a lot
writing,
of people type nowadays.
Yeah. So like typing, I'm okay. Reading, I'm okay. Speaking is way better than my writing skills and reading skills. Yeah. But in English, you see, you can write.
Yeah.
You know, I write my ideas in English. I write my, I take notes in English whenever I'm in a meeting. Doesn't matter. It's like in here or somewhere.
Have you ever taken that HSK?
Yes, I did. My HSK level is, I think, somewhere around 5, 6.
Whoa.
Yeah, it's like pretty high. It's okay. Like when I speak
right?
Chinese, like you can be sure. Like Chinese people go like, "Oh, he's Chinese." Like that's the reaction usually.
That's impressive.
Turkish, I get the same reaction. They was like, "Oh my God, you Turkish?"
Yeah, almost.
Yeah, something like that. So
Naiman.
yeah. But English, it gets better when I'm outside of Kazakhstan.
Yeah.
So when I'm around friends that like usually speak English, like couple of weeks probably I'll speak a very good English.
Yeah.
But here, as you know, well, at least you speak more than me because you got your job is requiring you to speak. So me, I'm mostly.
But I guess
speaking another
comparing to you, my Japanese isn't that high as your Chinese because I used to use Japanese when I was.
You see, environment
working.
is super important.
Yeah, and your job. I mean, it's directly connected to
exactly.
Chinese.
So it's helping me.
Yeah, that's true.
So who knows? I probably have to make some space if I learn business English. Who knows? Maybe I'll start working with America, and pretty soon we're also looking for an American support. We will love a support from U.S. Embassy, please. This thing is expensive, and it's not paying us anything. We're just doing this for the youth. The Kazakh youth, we're doing this for the expats. We're doing this for the foreigners who are looking for more information about Kazakhstan. It's literally the reason why we're doing it. Really, like we're busy people. I'm busy with business.
Charity.
Madi is busy.
Right?
Yeah, but we take a few hours every month or two. We come here and we shoot
contribute into this.
Yeah, we're trying to help somehow because look at our president. He speaks English. He speaks French. He speaks Chinese.
Yeah.
So polyglot. And we're trying to encourage everybody. Like, we are a new Kazakhstan. We need to grow. Our youth should be able to understand English at least on some level.
Yeah.
So we need to become more international. So that's what we're trying to do.
That's cool.
And one of the things I just want to kind of mention based off of some of my perspective, things I've seen in my experience in visiting so many different places and working with thousands of English teachers and students across Kazakhstan is when we talk about skill levels, there always was this kind of this emphasis, kind of just this overemphasis of wanting to sound like good. But one thing I've noticed though is that speaking really, people always say like speaking's the problem, but honestly, writing is where I've seen the weaknesses, and many people that will boast about high IELTS score. It's balanced their overall score by the other categories, maybe not necessarily writing.
From writing.
But in school, and also with a lot of professionals too, that's where I see them. They can speak money, but when it comes to different types of memos or communications. Especially when you get outside your comfort zone of maybe your own department or your typical people that you communicate with, they can get a little dicey, writing. So I noticed kind of this, this imbalance of skill levels. It's not equal, and that's just anything.
Yeah, I'm really curious about this thing either because, I'm taking the IELTS soon, and I've taken IELTS like 3 times, and all the time I take IELTS, my writing part is always the lowest, and. What should we do to improve our writing? Like, necessarily, could you share some tips for that?
Do you want to give me the short story? The short story is write more.
Yeah, but how to approach towards writing?
Well, I mean, it's definitely it is an approach because like I said, there always was this emphasis about being able to, orally communicate with others, and how do I sound, and kind of writing was kind of an afterthought almost, and it shouldn't be. I mean, writing is honestly equally important, especially in the way that we communicate and interact in business and society now, is so much stuff is through emailing, text, everything like that. So I think it's become more important because of that demand. Now people are starting to realize, well, it's not just about being fluent and orally and being able to speak with somebody and sounding intelligible, because your writing may not quite be so intelligible, or you'll lack certain kind of gaps in your knowledge with writing. So the way you can do that is honestly, I mean, with writing, first, everyone's always going to say reading a lot more, trying to read in that language. But, you know, reading for pleasure, reading for other purpose, and just kind of getting in and reading definitely helps out with the writing. But just being more conscientious, being more proactive, and trying to, you know, focus on writing. And it was something that when I visit and observe a lot of English lessons in different schools in Kazakhstan, you know, everybody's always about speaking and presenting and talking amongst ourselves. And active learning is a beautiful thing. You know, the transformation, you know, educational reform in Kazakhstan over the past decade with methodology and stuff. But where's exactly is the writing at? You know, and I'm seeing it's lacking in different schools no matter where I go.
I absolutely
Writing comes last in any language.
Man.
It's always
writing comes after they graduate.
Yeah.
You know, you know, the teachers are responsible. Like in the professional world, they learn about it.
I noticed that. I started speaking Turkish, right? First, I was just speaking, and then I finally learned how to read. I mean, like, I figured out the words. Okay, this means this and that. So reading. And then I finally started using the Turkish keyboard in my phone, so I can write. Until now, I mean, like, I cannot write pretty good. I always have to search, double check on Google and stuff. Even in English, when trying to write a business mail, it's like, oh, I don't sound so professional.
Formal,
I don't sound, you know, that I'm trying. And I read it, and I was like, man, I didn't say what I want to say. I couldn't get that, you know, idea that it's in here on the paper on my email. And then, as you guess, ChatGPT comes in.
Yeah, right. That is a whole
ChatGPT
kind of beast now.
saves the day. I read that thing. It's like, oh man, I would marry some guy like that who speaks like that. I was like, what?
Man.
And then you think about like disappointing the person. Like when you get a call back and then you sound different. You know, you write all these beautiful words, you use these professional words, and then end up just saying this and that and bros and what's up.
Yeah, what do you think about this whole thing with ChatGPT? Like, you think it's actually helping us, or I'd like to know
It's
your
just making
opinion.
us lazier.
I mean, that definitely is going to happen not for everybody. I mean, there's definitely going to be certain individuals where it's going to be counterproductive, obviously. Now I can understand, I mean, using any kind of, AI generated tool for creating, maybe for brainstorming. It's actually something I'm pretty open with my students, and telling them, hey, it's okay to use it for like brainstorming or other things like that, because sometimes it can really help you to put things into words to help you kind of, for certain types of concepts or things for the initial starting point. But then when it gets to the point where it's not just using, like ChatGPT for your assignments, but I'm even getting students now who are using ChatGPT just to communicate with me, not just for their assignments. I mean, when they're emailing me, their emails sound too profound,
Exactly.
I mean, they don't understand about the pragmatics of language and stuff. And, and ChatGPT actually is terribly inaccurate, and part of your responsibility is if you're going to use it, you do need to check over what you're doing, especially if you're sending something like your professor who's well aware of this kind of phenomenon, but it's one thing, I mean, if they're using for the assignments, but the real laziness I'm concerned about is using it to communicate for yourself. I mean, you're using that to speak for yourself. You're losing your voice.
Yeah.
They're creating this apps, or they're going to insert this plugin into the chatting apps so that you can just send a voice message, and AI is going to rewrite the whole thing into a better English.
Wow.
So that's going to happen if it's not already happening. So you just write, hey, Madi, let's go grab lunch around 2 p.m. And then it comes out like something totally different.
Yeah.
Hello, Madi, how are you? Like, if you have time, blah, 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 like very in a polite way.
That
Or you can
sounds
just tell them,
so-
like, make it in a polite way, make it in this way, that way. So that's gonna like make us more lazier. So.
Yeah, that's the big issue with this phenomenon is it can be a very productive tool for certain purposes, but when it's starting to speak for us and we're
replacing
losing our
you,
voice.
basically.
First, you download the app. Later in the future, we're plugging in the chips. You know,
Exactly. So you sound perfect all the time.
Have you seen the news? Like Elon Musk is looking for volunteers to.
They're already a lot of volunteers.
Yeah.
They've been ready.
Yeah.
So whatever they say, listen. I think the news, the mass media, you know, it's like, why would you think you're so important that they'll tell you what's going on? Okay, so that's how I think.
Yeah.
I think they just say it's been ready. When it's done, they just tell you, "Hey, we're about to do this."
Yeah.
So I think the AI also, the ChatGPT thing is quite early. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's quite good for the public use.
Yeah.
It's better you keep it in the government use or some for technology or research uses. I think, but for public, I think it's too early.
Yeah.
Well, for kids to have an access to it, for some crazy individuals to have access to it.
Yeah.
Wow, that's true. August, tell us about your approach towards, for example, I'd like to know, since I'm a teacher too. I mean, I used to teach English for a very long time, and I'd like to know about your personal, maybe like top 3 advice towards teaching, working with maybe children, maybe adults. Like, what are the things that you pay attention to while teaching? Is it like an individual approach towards teaching, or is it like using specific materials, or like, could you give some things about that?
I mean, there's a couple things that, you know, typically with, you know, again, like I said, I've trained and worked with like thousands of English teachers across Kazakhstan, and one of the kind of things I always emphasize a lot is constantly always trying to think, how can you make something more active? Because you'll be surprised. There's a lot of kind of things that you feel that you're trying to create like an active type of learning environment, but it still can be passive, and there's still ways that you can improve it. So constantly always trying to think about how you can make something more active always. I mean, if you felt like, you know, instead of doing this, I'm going to do this to make a much more kind of active environment that's more learner focused. Still think, how can I make that even more active? You know, don't become complacent. So definitely constantly trying to upgrade and trying to figure out how can you make things much more active. So because the environment, the culture of the environment of learning, it's absolutely critical. Other things like becoming like a better teacher, things to be conscientious about. I would say is, you know, definitely not being complacent with your professional skills. And I mean, like everybody says that, but so what does that mean? You go out and, you know, get some different courses, or what? Do you just read like a book? To me, teaching, one of the most important things is one of the things that kind of, you know, within Kazakhstan, I see some issues with teacher-to-teacher engagement. And again, that's, you know, honestly, I'm a career changer. I don't know if I mentioned that to you before, but I actually used to be a bank manager. So I've complete 180 career-wise. So it's kind of incredible. Most people can never imagine that I was doing something else differently professionally before for quite a while, and they can see me now, and it's kind of like we would never think about that. But the teacher-to-teacher engagement is really important. It's part of the environment, and I can remember my environment when I was in banking and finance, and that environment versus the environment of a teacher in a school in this kind of learning community. And the teacher-to-teacher engagement is important, and sometimes it's kind of put on the back burner. You're results oriented, you're focused on yourself, your own students. I have this one theory, kind of like this one, well, not necessarily it's mine, but it's something that's widely talked about, is teaching is kind of the egg carton profession. I don't know if you ever heard about this, about teaching being the egg carton profession.
Never.
So when you think about like an egg carton and you got all the eggs in it, you know, and a lot of people always think when I talk about this that the eggs are the students in the egg carton, you know, and the carton is the teacher or like the environment that's, you know, but actually all those eggs are all the teachers, and they're all kind of, you know, safe and secure. They're in their little space. But the thing about it is the purpose of an egg carton is so the eggs aren't touching each other, right? So that way they're keeping them intact. But actually teaching, it's you got to break out of that egg carton actually. And that's so definitely the teacher to teacher engagement is really important. So that's kind of the second thing that I really emphasize is that how for continuous professional development, hey, engage others, forums, podcasts, I mean, there's things that you can do out there to develop and engage communities. So those are a couple things. So those are kind of my main things I would say.
Yeah, that's impressive. That's really impressive.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's probably it for today's
about that time.
episode. Thank you, August, for being here.
It's definitely been a pleasure
to talk
guys.
to you
here.
Yeah, Madi, thank you so much, guys, for inviting me here. It's just anytime that I can help, and hopefully it's gonna be watched by millions of viewers around the world, create more awareness for Kazakhstan. Definitely, absolutely, you guys are doing a great thing here. I appreciate
Wishing you all the best as well.
Thanks a lot, guys. All
right. See you guys soon in our next episodes. Goodbye.
See you later. Bye bye.